same name. One of the things that I also uh, want to fault people like Joe Biden for is that he is very extremely pro-police. As you know, that those of us, there are many of us who believe in not only defunding the police, but also leading to police abolition. One of the reasons why is that police is a white supremacist institution, even to the point where Chairman Fred Hampton used to call police pigs because of the white supremacists. So this is one of the reasons why people like the Patriots, the Young Patriots, back then they worked with they were anti-racist and worked with the white. Sorry, they worked with the Black Panthers. And so, what is your thoughts on defunding the police, police abolition? What do you think about that?
So I wholeheartedly endorse the idea that we have to completely rethink policing in America. Policing is exactly what you said it is.
Hmm.
And there's, again, I come from a long line of cops. My grandpa was a cop in Chicago. My dad was a cop in Chicago. My oldest brother was a cop in Chicago. A lot of my best friends in Chicago were cops. So I know a lot of cops, and I know the culture of the cops. And I also talk to people who study the culture of the
Hmm.
cops. And the problem is the policing culture in America.
Hmm.
And so you either succumb to that culture or you leave. Those are the two. So that's why when you go, oh, there's just bad apples. There's no. It's not a bad apple. When Derek Colvin was kneeling on George Floyd's neck, there were three other cops standing there and watching it. Right. So this is
Hmm.
a culture. Right. And of course, if that wasn't on film, they would have all covered up for him.
Hmm.
Which is what happens all the time, right?
Hmm.
It's a culture of policing, and now that people have videotape, we see it. They can't stop it now. So
Hmm.
what we need to do is like the what police do is like, oh, we're going to appoint a new police chief to let's say Pasadena, and he's going to come in, and he's going to have his agenda. Like, here's
Hmm.
how we're going to do it. It should be the opposite. He should have to come to the public, and they're going to give him our agenda. Here's what we want out of our police. Like, for
Hmm.
instance, hey, what do you want to do when you pick up a kid for curfew? Do you want us to arrest them? No, we don't want you to arrest them. This is how we want you to handle this, and this is how we want. And we don't want you doing these kind of stops, and we don't want you harassing these kind of people. And we tell them what to do. That's how it's
Hmm.
supposed to go. So there should be community-based policing, and
Hmm.
it should be appointed by the community base. There should be committees set up, and there should be review boards, and it should all be citizens. Right now, the police investigate themselves. The police, so it's exactly what you say it is, and people don't realize that. They think like, oh well, cops are nice because every TV show is about the cops. If they were real, the people's heads would blow apart if they
Yeah.
showed what cops really were like and what they're really doing.
Mm.
Um, every time they do a study, you find cops planning shit on people all the time and making up fake stuff. And of course, I mean, just look at who's in prison, right? Look at the prison population. It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
structure of the criminal justice system is racist. Now, everybody
Hmm.
thought having Barack Obama as president would change that because he was the head of the criminal justice system. And what did he do? He appointed a Tony from Wall Street to run it for him, and nothing changed.
Yeah.
So they didn't prosecute any bakers. They didn't prosecute any, and they didn't move marijuana off the schedule that it was supposed to be moved up. Again, nothing. So we need structural change when it comes to policing. We need to change people's minds about it. Again, there aren't any good cops. There aren't any bad cops. There's a corrupt culture of policing in America that you either succumb to or you leave the profession, and that's coast to coast. So,
Hmm.
and the amount of money we spend on policing, again, why are cops in charge of pulling people over for traffic violations, right? Shouldn't there be people just to take care of traffic violations? Why do I have to have a guy with a gun if my headlights out? Fucking come up to my car like that. Why do I have to have a guy with a gun if I made a wrong left turn? Why do I have to have a guy with a gun? So we have parking meter, we have parking maids to take care of that stuff.
Hmm.
Why don't they?
Hmm.
So that's one idea. That's just one idea.
Hmm.
But another idea is you don't hire ex-military to be police. Another idea is you have to have police live in the neighborhood they police. Right now, I live in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and all the cops are white, and they live in by Magic Mountain and Canyon Country, and they drive 40 minutes in their city to go police it. And what they
I
become
agree
is
with
an
that.
occupying force. And what you're
Hmm.
supposed to be is, and they see them as the other. And so what they're
Hmm.
supposed to be is a member of the community, but they're
Hmm.
not. So that's another thing they should do. So there's lots of ways to change the culture of policing.
Hmm.
That's three of four of them would be the police chief asks you how you want to be policed. They don't impose their view of how you want to be policed. So and then also you have to have citizen review boards. So that's the way it should be set up. We shouldn't be dictated to by militarized cops on how they're going to police our cities.
But
Absolutely.
ultimately, that's what the problem is when it comes to capitalism. I mean, ultimately, the police, they don't obey us because they obey the
That's
people
right.
who
Well
actually
said.
are running things as far as the economy is concerned. I mean, you're an expert in this. You know that the top 1% own more than half of all the wealth. So therefore, they're
Right.
going to go to the people who have all the wealth. So if that's the case, and that's the ones who they're going to obey, they're not going to obey the people. So this is one of the reasons why people like myself and my co-host Nick, we are so adamant about the defunding and the road to abolition, because therefore the police only solve 2% of all crimes. That means 98% of all crimes is not being solved at all by the police. So what are they there for? It's there because Black people are in their own Palestine. It's really just an open air prison that we call the hood. So this is one of the things that I was very animate about. I just want to get your thoughts on.
I have
And I
let me just add this, JB.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned capitalism, and I just want to propose this question. I'm waiting for someone to answer this. No one has.
Mhm.
I dare you to name one time capitalism existed without slavery. Don't worry, I'll wait.
What
it
one time, Wayne? One time what?
one time capitalism has existed without slavery. Because now there was an investigation. Now you guys know there's more modern slavery right now than there was in the 1800s, right? Back to the issue
Yeah.
of defund the police. A lot of you guys know I work on 10 demands, and this has been the issue I've been advocating for, and I cover on my channel ever since last summer. And once again, I give you props, Dore, because you were one of the people that was covering George Floyd protests, and you were very adversarial toward the police. It did not evade me that there was a lot of people, a lot of white progressives, a lot of white leftists that was really weak on this issue. A lot of people were saying stuff like, "Oh, you can't say defund the police. That's a bad slogan." For
Mhm.
one, guys, that's not a slogan. Defund the police is a policy demand, and that's why it made white America uncomfortable. As JB pointed out, the cops only solved 2% of crimes. So there was a story in the New York Post. Conservatives loved it. Liberals retweeted it as well because they support the fascist police state. Where it was like, oh, the councilman from Atlanta who supports defund the police had his car stolen. Stolen. He. I'm like, okay, how you run that story like it's an attack on us when you just showed the police didn't stop him from getting his car stolen? So, so you guys making our point, right?
You would think, yeah, yeah. So the
Mhm.
idea that so what happens now too is they do listen. They do work for the capitalists. I mean, that's exactly right. Because the capitalists own the politicians, and the politicians hire the police chief, the police. So that's who they're going to work for. Just look what they did at Occupy Wall Street. Look what they do when they go into a homeless encampment. I mean, these are the most vulnerable people. They're supposed to be protecting these people, and this you would think the city, the government, the society would have some kind of moral obligation to protect and take care of the most vulnerable people in our society. Would be the people who are mentally ill, the people who are drug addicts, and the people who are living on the street. You would think you'd have to take care of those people
No, it's even
because
funnier than
there's
that, Jimmy. Sorry, but there's actually a case, and precedent was set by law because there was an officer in the school because you gotta get the kids used to our fascist
yeah
police system. So they had a police officer in school, and there was a school shooting, and the police officer ran away, and then they sued,
ran
and then in court they proved they showed and they said police do not have any legal basis to protect you. Just to back up what you were saying, but go ahead, Jimmy. Just like so they
well.
admit it. They admit it. But go ahead.
So you know what's crazy, and too, it's just propaganda that I hear people ingest and repeat back. Even Barack Obama says this, police officer's number one job is to make sure he gets home safe. That's not his fucking job. A police officer's job is supposed to be to make sure I get home safe, which is why he's allowed to carry a gun in broad daylight and has a monopoly on violence. He's supposed to risk his life, which is why he's supposed to be able to tell me what to do in the street and order me down and pull a gun on me. He's supposed to risk his life to save mine, not to risk my life to save his, which is how they think now. Even Barack Obama said that stupid shit.
The Democrats, they believe that in their core. In the core. And that's why I kind of explained earlier, to expand on that thought. That's why I said the liberals are so dangerous, because they put Black Lives Matter in their profile and they parade George Floyd's family out and use him as a PR, and then they propose a bill that fund the cops more. So what effectively happened? The liberals in the Democratic Party, they use Black exploitation and Black suffering in order to build political capital, in order to fund the forces of oppression that's killing us more. That's what they do. So that's why they're more dangerous than the Republican Party and the conservatives. The conservatives are morons. And as I said, and I mentioned how the Republicans are to the left of Joe Biden on the issue of healthcare, but they are to the left of Joe Biden on the issue of criminal justice. The vast majority of them support ending the new Jim Crow. They support ending the prohibition of marijuana. Joe Biden can't even do that basic step. Can't even do that basic step to get that done. And you want me to be assessed over them? It's the Democrat Party that continue to push these horrific policies. They are they are. Go ahead, Jimmy. But they pretty much. Go ahead.
Have you guys not been smeared as being right wingers?
Oh
yet?
Man,
because that's
God,
coming, right? You know that's coming.
Do not get me started.
They're going to say horseshoe theory, and then you're so far left, you're to the right. Why? So has that happened?
Oh man.
Oh, I've been bullshitted too many times already.
Yeah. Especially ever since I started Fred Hampton Leftist. I've been blocked by so many liberals, and a lot of liberals I didn't even know.